Hi, I'm Lisa Wallen with Directional Learning, and today I'm excited because I'm going to be teaching you teachers and parents how to link the letters to the sounds in these directional columns. That's what you're going to be working with your student. Remember, your student already watched our video on direction. They should have watched 2 videos on direction. If not, you can go to our YouTube channel, Directional Learning, and select the appropriate age for them to watch. So now they're ready to link the letters to the directional columns. And that's right, we call them directional columns because our letters actually have direction and live in these directional columns. And the student's going to be linking the sound to the letter. And we even have characters for our letters. So let's go learn how to teach the student. So to teach this, you will need a whiteboard, or you can laminate the columns with the direction. You will need wooden letters, lowercase, and I would stick with one color. And when you use the wooden letters, make sure they're traditional letters, not too scrolly, not too fancy, just like what I have here. So I'm going to show you how to play the game. That's what I tell the students. We're going to play a game. And these directional columns should look pretty familiar with them. Also, for the directional columns, you do not have to have the pictures on there, because if you're using a whiteboard, it's a little hard to draw pictures unless you're a good artist. So anyways, you're going to go ahead and have it labeled for them for the very first time. So you're going to label it with the direction and the numbers, and they should have already watched the video on finding direction. That's a must. So if not, make sure that they watch it. And you're going to bring in the wooden letters. But before we do that, just tell them about the direction. Just review. This is the left, right? And this is the one. This is our one lefty dragon. He blows his fire out towards the left. And if you look at the number 1, it has the left in it. And this is our capital L building. And how they find the direction is the corner here. Okay, so if you want, you can review it, but they've already watched the video. I just ask them, what direction is this? This is the left. The 1 means the left. This is the middle, where the mountain monsters dance. 2 means the middle as well. It's being squished by the other numbers. This is the red reptile tree, so it means right. There's a road here, so you follow the road. That takes you to the right. And the number 3 means the right too. It's a road. And you follow the road, takes you to the right. So they should know that. This should look familiar to them. So it doesn't really matter what color you put the direction in. I would just do it all in one color too. Same thing with our lines here. So you build 3 columns and just label the direction, and then talk about the direction a little bit. So the first thing I do is I tell them we're going to play a game. See these wooden letters down here? I do not have all the wooden letters here. There's 26 letters in the alphabet. I don't have them all there. I just have different letters to show them. The first one that I'll show them is the apple. And they should have watched the video. They know that this is the apple on the stick, and the stick's really short. And they know that the apple lives in the left. A way you can check is look at the bump. See this bump here? Which way is it pointing towards? Is it pointing towards the left, or is it pointing towards the right? It's pointing towards the left, towards the capital L building. So it lives in the left. So that's where it lives, in the left. On the next letter, let's take out this. I call this my climbing cat. And this is his tongue sticking out. It's my climbing cat with his tongue sticking out. See this part here, the bump? Which way is the bump pointing towards? It's pointing towards the left, or towards the one direction. So it would live there. So you see, we're just looking at the bumps and placing it there. Let's look at this one here. I call this one my digging dog. And do you see the bump here? Well, it's a digging dog, so we can imagine this being his tongue. And his tongue is pointing out towards the left, so it would live there. Let's look at this letter here. So we call these letters here tongue letters because they have their tongue sticking out. Okay, this letter here, let's look at the bump. Which way is the bump pointing towards? Is it pointing towards the 1? Is there a bump going that way? There is not. But is there a bump going towards the red reptile tree, or towards the right? It is. So this has a road. Remember, this had a road? So this has a road. So you follow the road. Buh. And that's our bouncy bad. Buh. Okay, Next letter, and we call this a road letter. The next letter, let's look at this letter here. P. Do you see this one? I call this my palace. And the palace has a road because the bump points towards the right. So it would live over there. Okay, so those are road letters on this side. They have roads. And remember, they've watched the video and they've seen the picture already. They all have roads on them. Okay, now middle letters. Okay, so I just call these middle letters. A middle letter would look like this. There's no bumps pointing towards the left or right. So no bumps, it lives in the middle. Okay, this one here has a bump, right? That's a bump. It points towards the left and towards the right. So it points both ways. So it lives in the middle. It gets to dance in the middle. Okay, what if we have a letter like this with no bumps? Well, do you see it has lines, and the lines are kind of all over the place. They kind of point towards the left, they kind of point towards the right, so it's going to be a middle letter. So it lives there. So that's how they determine where to put them in these directional columns to sort them. So then, after I show them how to sort them, now we start playing the game. So before we play the game, I wanted to show you our pictures. See, there's our bouncy bed. Notice how it has a road. Here's our palace. Notice how it has a road. And here is our tall, tall building with city lights. Here's our Indian elephant. So the Indian elephant, this is his eyeball, this is his trunk. And this is our digging dog. See the digging dog with his tongue stuck out? Notice how it lives on the one side. And here's the cat with his tongue stuck out. And here's our famous apple that they're all chasing. So you can kind of see, oh, and here's our Sharpie Scissors too. That's kind of all over the place. So they've already been exposed to these characters. So see how it makes a visual picture for them? So letters that live over here have a road. Letters that have a tongue live over here. And letters that just kind of go all over the place live in the middle, and letters that just go up and down live in the middle too. And a letter that has a bump both ways just lives in the middle. So something else I wanted to show you is notice how all these letters have tongues. Well, remember our one lefty dragon, he has his tongue sticking out too, so that's the visual picture for that. So let's bring out the one lefty dragon so you can see his tongue sticking out. So see, there's his tongue sticking out. So they already have that visual picture of the one lefty dragon's tongue sticking out. So do the animals, they all stick their tongue out. And of course, they're after the apple. And if we look at our road, remember our road, the right has a road in it. So they already have that visual picture of that. You can kind of see that. There's our red reptile tree and it has a road. So all our letters over here will have a road. And then over here in the middle, these letters just get the dance in the middle. They're free. They're all over the place. So now let's go learn how to finish playing the game. So now, after showing them how to play the game, now I put all 26 letters here. And usually the letters, I put them to the side of the board, to the left or the right side of the board. I pick one side because usually putting them down here at the bottom of the board doesn't work because they start to get mixed up once they start putting them in the directional columns. So for organization, I'll put them on the left or the right side of the board. And for the very first time that we work with them, we will call them in alphabetical order. Second time, we start mixing it and we don't call them in alphabetical order. And another thing I do for the very first time is I keep the letters upright. See how they're upright? They're not on their sides. They're not upside down. The second time, I put them upside down and I put them on their sides and mix them up really well. Because this helps them with the visual aspect of finding the letter. They have to move it around. These are 3D letters. But for the very first time, I want to see what they do. So I make it easy for them. And use your judgment. If it was really hard for them the first time, then you might want to keep them upright for the second time. So remember, each student is different, so just use your judgment. Be flexible with your teaching. Tell them that I'm going to call it in the alphabetical order sound. So I'm going to do it in alphabetical order for the first time. I may call ah. So you'll look down here and you'll find it and you'll look for the bump. There it is. And it's pointing towards the left. So the bump points that way, so it lives in the left. Then you're going to repeat the sound, ah. Notice how I'm calling it by its baby sound. I'm not calling it by its letter name, not yet anyways. So when they're linking the sounds, we're only calling them by their baby sounds. So how I explain that to them is that cat came by and he broke my stick and I cried like a baby, ah, ah, ah. We call that the baby sound or the short sound, ah. It's really short. So we're only calling it by its short or baby sound. The next letter I would call is B. So they have to look for it. You can help them find it. There it is. That's a tricky letter. And tell them which way is the bump pointing. Is it pointing towards the 1 or towards the 3? It's pointing towards the 3. So guess what? It lives over there. So they'll place it there. Then I tell them, notice that if it lives this way, it has a road like the red reptile tree. So that's B. And if you remember that letter, it has this. I'm going to bring a picture out so you can see it. It has a road. And notice the pair of lips. When you say the sound, what do your lips do? Can you say the sound? B, your lips come together. Now they may have a hard time seeing their lips come together or feel their lips coming together. So you can mimic the sound with your own lips as a teacher and they can watch. And that's how sometimes they learn, by watching. Or if they don't get it that way, you can have them look in a mirror, but have them see that their lips look like this. So what I do is I put a pair of lips up here to remind them that there's 2 special letters that have that with the lips, because their lips come together when they say the sound. And that's the bouncy bed, and that's going to be our pink palace. So I'll put a pair of lips up here in the column form. So you can draw it, you can print out our clip art, whatever you want to do. So I'll remind them that this is one of those letters, because if you're on a bouncy bed, your lips come together. If you were bouncing, bouncy. So you can remind them like that, jumping on a bouncy bed and your lips come together, bouncy. Next letter is k, k, k. And for this, you want them to grab both letters, that letter and the king, because they both make that sound. So you want to explain that to them. And for this, tell them that this is our climbing cat and this is our king. So I'll bring out the picture so that you can see. So there's our king, and then our climbing cat was right here. Let's see, there he is. So there's the pictures. So I tell them, since we're going in alphabetical order, we're talking about the climbing cat because that would come next. So we'll take that away. And the climbing cat has his tongue sticking out. So he lives on the one side or towards the left. So that's where he lives. And he's chasing that apple. And it doesn't matter where they put the letters as long as it makes it in the correct directional column. Okay, our next sound is duh, duh, duh. And I call that my digging dog. So see how I'm telling them about the characters? And my digging dog has his tongue sticking out. And which way is his tongue sticking out? So he lives over here. And he's chasing that cat and he's chasing the apple. And I tell them right there and then, do you see the digging dog? He has his tongue sticking out. And do you see the cat in him? And do you see the apple in him? A lot of times they'll be able to distinguish seeing this letter by just seeing the apple in it. But you can tell them the cat's in it too. But see the digging dog? He's chasing that cat and he's after that apple. And you can tell them the digging dog has the apple in him. And that might be easier for them to recognize the letter later on. Okay, our next letter is eh, eh, eh. This one I call my elephant. And notice the elephant has a trunk. So this is his trunk. So a lot of times when I call this sound, I'll make this line with my arm. So I'll put my arm in front of me, making a horizontal line like that. And I'll call that sound out so that they think that it's the elephant. And then I tell them, this is the elephant's trunk. And then that elephant, he hits his trunk on the building. And then he goes after that cat. You see the cat in him? And he's sticking his tongue out. So this is his tongue. So he's a tongue letter. So he lives over here. And his baby sound is eh, eh, eh. The next sound is f, f, f. Of course, that's our favorite candy cane. Doesn't it look like a candy cane? So this is the candy cane. This is a ribbon that goes across the candy cane. And I tell them candy canes can hang from trees. Think of that famous time of year. Imagine this is a tree, so this hangs from the tree, and this has a road too. So it lives over here because of the hook. The hook points towards the right. Okay, our next letter is G, 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 and I call that my goat, or Gulping Goat, because he eats the candy and he's after that cat. And see the apple in him too. And he has a jolly smile. See his jolly smile? And that's going to be in the reference to his other sound he can make, which is ja. But for this part, we teach him G only. We just talk about his jolly smile. And see his tongue sticking out? It points towards the left, or towards the one direction. And his jolly smile points that way, so he lives over there. And that's our goat with his tongue sticking out. Our next letter is H, and I call that my hill. Do you see it's a hill? And I tell them on this one, do you see the bump here? That bump is pointing towards the red reptile tree, so it goes that way. And something else, do you see that it has the red reptile tree in it? You can kind of see it there. So that's the hill. It points towards the red reptile tree. And for this sound, you can imagine yourself running down the hill and back up the hill and around the hill, and you're so tired. Okay, the next sound is I, and that's my Indian elephant. Do you see my Indian elephant? And we talked about the Indian elephant. He lives in the middle, and he's called something else. He's called the shwa, shwa. Hear him flying? Shwa, 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 shwa. It's the schwa. We call him the schwa, because later on, he's going to be the most powerful letter in the land. He's going to control all the red letters, which are vowels. So, anyways, from the start, we call him the schwa, and he's called the Indian elephant. Notice he's an elephant that's painted. In India, they paint their elephants. And so I showed you the picture of him, and you notice that's his eyeball and that's his trunk. So this is his letter, what his letter would look like. So he lives in the middle. We've already talked about him, so he's I. Okay, the next letter is our dotted letter. It's J, 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 and that's our joking joker. So here's our joking joker. Joking joker has a hat, and its smile goes towards the left. And so his sound is J, J. He does his jolly laugh, J, J. So, and you notice he doesn't have a tongue, but because his smile goes towards the left, he gets to live in the left, okay, or towards the one direction. Next letter is K, K, and that's my king. So the king, remember, this is his crown and his leg, and look at his crown and leg. It points towards the red reptile tree, and if you remember, it has a road, so it has a road, so it lives there. K, K. My next sound is L, and that's my tall, tall building with city lights. Get it? Lights, and it gets to dance in the middle, so it lives there. My next letter is and that's my biggest mountain. And notice its bumps point towards the left and towards the right, so it gets to live in the middle. And this one I say biggest mountain wins. And the reason why we say that is because it's going to help with our phonics when we get to our phonics. In alphabetical order would be Remember, you're calling the sound, and then they're picking it up, and they're figuring out where to put it. So look at the bump here. Which way is it pointing? It's pointing towards the right, and if you notice, it has the red reptile tree in it. See that? And it has only one bump. That's what makes it different than this letter. So this is a mountain monster, so of course it gets to live in the middle. This only has one bump, and the bump points towards the red reptile tree, so it lives over there. And the sound is So something else I wanted to tell you is make sure that when they're putting it in the directional column, they're actually saying the sound. I get tons of students in my office that do not want to say the sound. So make sure you remind them to say the sound. And that's linking the letters. So that's super important. Okay, the next sound is ah, ah, ah. And I call this my dentist sound because, let me get a picture out. So I call this the dentist sound. That's why I call it the dentist sound. I'm going to show you why. Because, okay, here's the dentist. This is somebody at the dentist. See their tooth? It's injured. Because they thought they were biting into an apple, but it turned out to be a rock. So if you were at the dentist and they say open wide, you would say ah, ah, ah. So you do your baby cry or baby sound or short sound, ah, ah, ah. So that's easy to remember. And this is going to help with phonics later on too. So this is an important sound, ah, ah, ah. And this is one of those sounds that is often confused. So giving them a visual picture is really helpful. And this letter is all over the place. See a bump here and a bump pointing towards the left and a bump pointing towards the right. So it lives in the middle. Our next sound is p, 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 and that's our palace. And do you see the bump? It points this way, so it must have a road. And this is that tricky letter, the palace, the one that has the lips. There's our picture. So remember, it has a pair of lips because it lives over here by the red reptile tree. See the lips? So when you say this sound, your lips come together. Pa, pa, pa. That's the pink palace. Okay, so you got a picture of that. The next sound is qua, 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 and that's our queen. Here's a picture of our queen. And do you see our queen? She has her tongue sticking out, and she's holding the apple. And she's a dancing queen. Qua, qua, qua. So that's her sound. So we'll move her over there. The next sound is ra, ra, ra. And that's easy. If you remember her picture over here, it has a small red reptile tree. So that's the red reptile tree. And it has a road. Ra, ra, ra. So it lives over there. Something else to think about is the sound for the red reptile tree. A lot of times they want to say for that sound, which it can when it's with special letters. But when it's by itself in the beginning of the word, we want them to say the sound ra. So that's the sound we should use while we sort the letters. And an easy way to remember the sound is, I think, of the sound ra. It sounds like a dog barking, I tell them, because think about that. This is the red reptile tree. Dogs love trees. So if they love something, they say ruff, ruff. Listen to the first part of that sound, ra, ra. So that's an easy way to remember the sound. Okay, our next sound is s, s. So I would say s, s, and I would say that's Slimy the snake. This is Slimy the snake. And Slimy the snake has a bump going this way and a bump going this way. So he lives in the middle. So I would just move him in the middle. S, s, s. And a lot of times you'll see when you're working with a student, you'll say the sound t, t, t. And you could tell them this is Tommy the turtle. And you'll see that they can tell where to put it in the columns. And just let them. They'll put it in the columns like that and say t, t, t. And just tell them, yes, it's a middle letter. And you can tell them because the lines are all over the place. So this is Tommy the turtle. T, t, t. And even though these are our red reptiles, these are our reptiles, you know, Slimy the snake and Tommy the turtle are both reptiles. Now, they do like to go to the red reptile tree occasionally to read. So, but they live in the middle because their lines go all over the place. Our next letter that we're going to do is Here he is. So we call him the up guy. And his sound is and he's married to the queen. So he lives over here on the left side, the one side, because he's married to the queen. And I'm going to bring his picture out. So here's his picture. Schwa, 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 schwa. Here are his wings. Schwa, schwa, schwa. He's called the schwa. And he's going to be one of the most important letters because you'll hear his sound. And do you notice that he has wings? Because he can fly up. That's how we remember his sound. Up, So he has wings. He's called the schwa. They'll find out how important he is. And notice that he has 2 eyes and he has a nose. That's his nose. So our next letter that we're going to talk about is v, v, v. So I call this one my bird because it looks like a bird's beak. Here it is. Doesn't it look like a bird's beak? Can't you see the bird's beak? And his sound is v, v, v. And for this one, I always like to make a peace sign with my hands. And I say v, v, v. That's one bird, one bird. Also, for the up guy, for his sound for you to remember is I touch my nose and I look up, So that's how we remember the up guy sound. Okay, so our next sound is wah, wah, wah. And that's two birds' beaks that came together. Do you see that there are two beaks that came together? And just like our bird, its lines go all over the place. So it lives in the middle too, just like our one bird. See, we have two birds that came together. And you can make the peace sign to make the bird's beak with one hand and then with the other hand. Then bring them together to make this letter. Then look through it, and we call this the watch out letter because we say watch out for this letter. And then the next sound is ks, ks, ks. And this one I call my Sharpie Scissors. That's my Sharpie Scissors there. Doesn't it look like a pair of scissors? I'll bring out the pair of scissors so you can see. There it is right there. So this letter is the Sharpie Scissors. So the letters are all over the lines are all over the place, so it lives in the middle. And for my next letter, it's yak got a haircut, yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's this letter here. I'll bring the picture out. So, do you see my picture of my yak here? There's my yak. And notice that he's getting a haircut from the pair of scissors. And notice the yak looks like the pair of scissors is just missing a leg or hair because it's getting a haircut. So this one is yak got a haircut, yeah, yeah, yeah. And because his lines go all over the place, he lives in the middle. And for the last letter, it's 7 o'clock. Time to get to bed. Dream about our sounds. Z, z, z. Notice this letter has a 7 o'clock in it. And it has a bed. So this is 7 o'clock. Time to get to bed. Dream about our sounds. Z, z, z. And for this one, here, I make a bed with my hands like I'm pretending to go to sleep. And we've done the whole alphabet. And, oh, for the yak, what I do for my hand movement is I say, yak got a haircut, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'll make a pair of scissors with my hands and go in a downward motion for yak got a haircut, yeah, yeah, yeah. So we just learned how to put our letters in these directional columns. One more thing I wanted to show you is I wanted to show you that our letters over here have the red reptile tree in it. Can you see this, of course, is a red reptile tree. It's the small one, if you remember our picture here. See, we have the small red reptile tree. So if you look at this here, our bed has a red reptile tree in it. Our hill has a red reptile tree in it. And our mountain points towards the red reptile tree. See it? And so does our palace. So this is what I do is I show them. I say these are road letters because they point towards the red reptile tree. And they have the red reptile tree in it. And I'll take a wooden letter and I'll show them just like that. And I'll have them put the red reptile tree in the letters because this is going to be helpful for handwriting later on. So these letters point towards the road and they have the red reptile tree in them. Now let's look at these letters over here. These letters are special because they have the apple in them. So let's look at this. The digging dog has the apple in it. The goat has the apple in it. And our queen has the apple in it. So all you have to do is look for the apple in those letters and you'll find it. So the digging dog has the apple. So I'll do the same thing, give them the wooden letter and they'll make it fit in there. This is going to help when they're looking for the letter and writing the letter. So I'll say that these letters over here have the apple in it. Some of the letters over here have the red reptile tree in them. So I wanted to show you what our board would look like with our letters the second time you work with them. Remember, the second time you work with them, you're going to have the letters upside down on their side. It's going to be all mixed up like this, and you'll have all 26 letters to the left side of the board or the right side of the board. Here, I just have it at the bottom, and I only have a few to show you what it would look like. So you might call out eh, 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 and tell them that's the icky letter. So they may see that it's this letter here. So they're going to have to find it, turn it around. See if I can turn it around for you. And they might decide, yeah, that's the Indian elephant. And you can tell them and remind them that it's the icky letter because this is the Indian elephant, this is his eye, he looks at you, and this is his trunk. He sprays you off with his trunk. That would be icky, So that's the icky letter. And it gets to live in the middle. So they may put it in the middle. Our next letter is our goat, G, G, G. So they may find it and figure out it lives in the left. They can follow the bump, or they might see the apple in it. And that's the goat with his tongue sticking out. G, G, G. The next letter you might call out is N, N, N. They'll have to find it, turn it around to see if it really is a little mountain. And you might want to say that sound, and it's your little mountain. And it has a red reptile tree in it, and it points towards the red reptile tree. So that's N, N, N. They'll find it and put it in the directional column. The next letter you might call out is X, 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 and that's the Sharpie Scissors. Remember, you can always do the hand movement too. And they'll put it in the column. X, 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 and repeat the sound. The next one you might want to call out is the palace. They'll find it, turn it around, follow the bump, or see the red reptile trees in there, and put it in the column and say the sound, pa, pa, pa. Or maybe they'll think of their lips, pa, pa, pa. The next letter is Z, 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 and that's the last letter. It's Z, Z, Z. And this one I tell them it's 7 o'clock. So it has a 7 o'clock in it, and it has a bed on it. So it's 7 o'clock, time to get to bed and dream about my sounds. And with this, I'll make a bed with my hands, and then I'll put my hands, my cheek, into my hands like I'm going to bed. Zzz, zzz, zzz. That's the hand movement for that one. I call out is ya, 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 and that's my yak who got a haircut. And for the hand movement of this one, you just make, see if I can turn it around. There it is. They'll have to turn it around and figure out what letter it is. But this is the yak got a haircut. And what I like to do is I like to make this letter here, the letter, the bird letter. See the peace sign? And if you turn the peace sign around to look like scissors, I'll bring the picture out just like this. So you'll make that letter, turn it around like a pair of scissors, and move your fingers in that fashion like yak is getting a haircut. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yak got a haircut. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Get it? He's missing a leg or a hair here. So that's the hand movement. Do a pair of scissors like that with your hands. And that's the yak. Okay, and you may call out the king. K, k, k. You might want to say the king for this one so they know that it's the king, not the cat. And they'll look at the crown and put it over there and repeat the sound. K, k, k. And the last one you might call out is the two birds. My two birds with two pointy beaks. This is the watch out letter. Wah, wah, wah. And you can do the hand movement on this one, remember. Put the peace sign in one hand and another peace sign. Put them together and look through it, and that becomes the watch out letter. Wah, wah, wah. And you did it. So you just learned how to teach your student the second time you work with them. Remember, if it's too difficult for them when you put them on their sides or upside down, then just put them upright for the second time and then try it maybe the third time. Remember, we have to be flexible with our students. So remember, sorting letters is very important because it teaches them that letters have direction and they have sounds and characters. So this is going to lead to reading because remember, when we read, our letters make sounds. So sounds are important. Last thing we wanted to show you is we wanted to show you all our directional characters. That's right, they all have direction and they live in these directional columns. And this is going to help the student link the letters to the sounds. Notice all our characters over here have their tongue sticking out. Of course, they have to remember the apple just lives here because its bump points towards the left. And our joking joker, well, it's kind of logic. His smile goes towards the left, so he lives over there. And all our letters get to dance in the middle, and these letters, they either don't have a bump, so we put them in the middle, or maybe they have a bump that points both ways, so they live there, or maybe their lines just go all over the place, so they live in the middle. And our letters over here, if you notice, all of them have a road, except for our favorite candy cane. It could have a road, but they just remember that it can hang from the red reptile tree. It hangs from trees. So you can tell that we brought our characters to life for the students so that it gives them direction and it gives them a little imagination. So that's how we like to teach. So you'll notice all our characters will be used through our handwriting program. So once you show them how to play the game one time, you can start the handwriting program with them. And the handwriting program, that is going to link our letters to reading. So make sure that you watch our handwriting program and do the handwriting program. And remember, the handwriting program just jumps to vowels and consonants, so you don't want to skip a step. So we thank you for watching Directional Learning, and we want to give you a reminder to teachers, parents, or if you're a tutor, we ask that you teach this program freely. We designed this program so that it would be free, so that any student can have access to learn how to read and spell. So if you teach it, we ask that you teach it freely. And we ask that you let everyone know that you're using Directional Learning by putting it on your social media or on your school directory. We thank you for watching Directional Learning, and we can't wait to teach you more.